Hello, this is Laura Rhodes. I work as a tourist guide and I'm normally showing people around the northeast and around Newcastle. But while we've been at home, I've been thinking about some of the things that Newcastle is famous for. And I've been particularly thinking about the tasty treats from the Toon. Now, the question I've just asked, what is Newcastle famous for? If you asked an American visitor, I think you're likely to get two answers. The first of these would be coal, because the expression taking coals to Newcastle or carrying coals to Newcastle is something that the city is famous for. It was something seemed to be a bit futile because, of course, Newcastle was the place that exported all of the coal. But apart from the coal, another thing that we're famous for is the beer. Now, the beer in question would be Newcastle Brown Ale, famous throughout the world, seen here on a display at Beamish Museum. Now, this particular beer was developed by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Porter. He came from a brewing family in the Midlands, and he settled in Newcastle after he left the army, and he set about developing a recipe for a beer. Really, he was trying to recreate the flavour of the Bass brand, but what he ended up producing was something quite different, and it's got a very distinctive flavour all of its own. Newcastle Brown Ale was launched in 1927 by Newcastle Brewery's Tyne Brewery after 3 years of work, and it soon became popular in the pubs and clubs of North East England. Here you can see a picture, an image of a poster promoting the Tyne Brewery in Newcastle city centre. The history of brewing on the Tyne Brewery site goes back to the 1860s, but it was bought in 1884 by John Barras of Gateshead, and Newcastle Breweries was established in 1890. The Tyne Brewery was opened in 1890, one of the largest and best equipped breweries in the north of England. Now, that old building no longer exists, but the site of the bottling plant and the site of the brewery offices is where the Newcastle Science Park is based today and used by Newcastle University. This picture was taken about 20 years ago, and this building still stands today. This was for many years the offices of the brewery and stands opposite St James's Park. Now it's a really smart hotel. But you can see here the Newcastle United strip on the side of the building. And when the famous number 9 player Alan Shearer broke the club's scoring record, a special production run of 2.5 million bottles of Newcastle Brown were made with the Newcastle United's black and white stripes and Alan Shearer's face on the front. And some of the profits from this went towards Shearer's testimonial match. Now, also on the side of this building, just facing onto St James's Boulevard, you'll see a big blue star logo right towards the top of the building. The famous Blue Star logo was introduced in 1928, and the 5 points of the star represent the 5 breweries, the 5 founding breweries in Newcastle. The beer was one of the first to be sold in a clear glass bottle, and it's still sold this way today. Of course, nobody in the know goes into the pub and asks for a pint of brown ale, please. It's either a bottle of Brune or a bottle of dog, maybe because husbands used the excuse of taking the dog for a walk when they wanted to sneak out to the pub for a cheeky pint. In the 1960s, Newcastle Breweries merged with the Scottish Brewers Company to create Scottish and Newcastle, and Newcastle Brown Ale became one of their flagship brands. It's always had quite a traditional image. You can see here the traditional bottle and the cans that were later introduced. And although the cans contain exactly the same recipe for that beer first brewed in 1927, offering that smooth taste with a lovely dark brown colour, not too bitter, not too sweet. It's seen as an honest, straightforward, no nonsense kind of a brand. So although it's the same beer inside the cans, people really do still prefer the traditional bottled beer. The beer became really popular among students, and that led to the claim that it was the most widely distributed alcoholic product in the UK. And around 20 years ago, the bulk of the sales were in the United States, although it does still sell about 100 million bottles in the UK every year. Now, in 2005, the brewing moved from Newcastle across the river to Dunstan, and the last 3,000 bottles produced in Newcastle were given special labels to commemorate over 120 years of brewing history in the city. And the final bottles weren't up for sale. They weren't for the public, but they were given specially to the brewery staff as a special commemorative gift. Although that wasn't the end of the brand. In 2010, the brewing moved to Yorkshire, and in 2017 to the Heineken brewery in Holland. But the name and the distinctive blue star will always be associated with Newcastle. Another famous brand started in Gosforth over 80 years ago when John Gregg started his business delivering fresh eggs and yeast to the local people. And he used his bike. He travelled around the area on his bike. But in 1951, John Greggs opened a bakery called Greggs of Gosforth. Were made and sold in his first shop on Gosforth High Street, and there's still a Greggs on Gosforth High Street today. But gradually, the company became a household name in the Northeast, and in the 1970s, they expanded into other parts of the UK. This picture shows the Greggs Bakery on the Green Market in Newcastle city centre in about the 1970s. And I'm sure a lot of local people will be familiar with that scene there. Now, the best-selling Greggs product is, of course, the Greggs sausage roll, one of my favourites. And here you can see a picture of that best-selling product, the sausage roll. More than 2 million of these are sold every week. You might remember last year in 2019, a vegan version was launched, harnessing the popularity of meat-free dishes. The demand was unprecedented, and they really had to work very hard to keep up with that. But the vegan sausage roll is now firmly established alongside their other popular choices. After the vegan sausage roll was launched, it boosted sales and profits so much that the company employees were all given a bonus. And of course, it's still a local company, very much with a community spirit. Going back to the 1960s, they used to have a free Greggs pie and pea supper for the older community in Gateshead. And there's still a big commitment to charity. The Children's Cancer Run, which takes place every year, has over the years raised £30 million for cancer research. And Greggs are also part of a scheme providing free breakfast to primary school children, part of the Greggs Foundation. So from its humble beginnings in Gosforth, Greggs has come a long way to become the largest bakery chain in the United Kingdom with almost 2,000 shops, and it is still based in the Northeast. Here you can see one of their larger shops in Newcastle city centre. There's space there to sit with a cup of coffee and a sausage roll perhaps and watch the world go by. Now though, there's a whole range of gluten-free, health-conscious snacks, but I've got to admit my favourite is still the Yum Yum. I wonder what yours is. I hope that's got your taste buds tingling. I'd just like to say thank you to Greggs for letting us use their images. Most of the images were from Newcastle Libraries Flickr collection, but also a special thank you to Terry Pinniger Photography for Terry's pictures of the Newcastle Brown Ale display at Beamish. Thank you very much.